All right, it is 8:30, and I'll turn the sound off of this. There we go. Like to call the meeting to order, to have a motion to approve today's agenda.
So moved. I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Armstrong, second by Holmes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We could rise, face the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right, on our agenda, it's public comment time. Does anyone wish to have a public comment this morning? If so, I'd ask you to come to the microphone, state your name. Look online, see if we have any public comments. If anyone online has anything for the group, please come forward now. Well, hearing no request for public comment, we will move right to the engineer's update when JD gets his jacket off. Nothing like giving you a hard time.
Pass that. Start talking.
Morning.
Morning. Any public comment this morning?
No, sir.
So you should have sent these one out yesterday afternoon to get them.
Yes, sir.
JD King, Page County Engineer, fine fall morning in Page County. The blades are out. We were short a couple of guys yesterday, but the blades that are out here are running. Taking advantage of that moisture over the weekend. Hauling off with only 2 trucks. That's appropriate for a diminished level of activity on that task. We need to tie that rock down before the winter. So I had a crew out yesterday, cold patching, doing some tree trimming and driving some roads after the heavy rains on Sunday. We still have some smaller tasks to do across the county. The retriever on number 2, that's the device that helps us with, it's a one-way disc. Helps us work on edge ruts. North of Bethesda in particular is one of our spots, and then the rest of the payments, just where the edge ruts are bad, not the whole thing. We're gonna pull some silk fence on the F-28 bridge project from earlier this year. In November, we'll be putting up some silk fence, probably at the same locations we have the previous years. And we'd like to haul some riprap across the county, various spots where we have it in. They broomed the Northborough auto seal yesterday. We've done Bradleyville last week. This is a rent for a week machine. And the blades, that first comment about blade work, we had the operator involved in a crash. He's out, or he's off work. I anticipate that being several months. given the nature of his injury. So we have shifted some operators around and assigned a labor driver. Normally, classified as labor driver. We've assigned him to a district and reclassified him on a temporary basis as a motor grader operator. We've done some circle maintenance on our motor graders. Number 4 was last week, and number 5 was this week. Continuing with our winter tandem truck service. Still waiting on the motor grader. Murphy's in Omaha. The engine supposedly was in and they were hooking it up. We heard that a couple weeks in now. Maybe it'll be in this week. And the same with 24, the truck, the old truck tractor. Continue to wait parts. On the engineer side, we're filing out the auto seal job on the market job. When we get most of that paperwork done there, there'll be a final voucher for the board to sign. We'll put it on the agenda. And the F-20 bridge that was done in May is probably the other part of that. The sister bridge is now mostly done, and we're waiting on the federal audit for that. Sent various reports to the state auditor as they requested. End of year stuff. Gatsby 34 stuff, which is really a waste of time, in my opinion, and several others, but still a requirement. In the process of attempting to hire some replacements for our maintenance staff, and we're making progress to that regard. And then later on this morning, in the work session for the silver orders, I'll be back for that. Okay. I did speak with Carl and sent some markups to Carl on that silver orders we had. Now, I haven't sent anything back, but Carl will be here this morning. Okay. Questions for me about the update? I've had weather dependent, when people drive down dirt roads or mud.
How much rain did anybody get? Where were the hot spots?
3 to 5,
Essex.
more than perhaps 5 or 6 up north part of the county.
Would you, that's what I heard, about 3 or 4, 3 inches, I think,
Yeah.
the bucket should.
Yeah.
And I had guys down further south that had, maybe less than 3. So it was a pretty healthy.
I heard some 5-6 inch rains up north.
Yeah, Essex had a tremendous amount.
I had a tad over 5 in my gauge.
Did you?
Really? Yeah. No, it's a new gauge, maybe it's not very accurate, but it had a little over 5.
Well, we needed the rain, recharge the rivers,
Yes.
but I think some of it would have soaked in when it came.
Yeah.
Not all. Some
But a lot
came
of
pretty
it.
bad, but some of it.
So is there more in the forecast tonight?
Wednesday,
Yeah.
tonight, Wednesday.
Yeah. Up to 2 inches in areas, depending on where it is.
When you come back for that zoning, would you mind bringing a copy? I grabbed I'm looking at 6 or 7 different ordinances, and I forgot the Fremont County one
Okay, well, I've
with some markups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, I can bring it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're ahead of schedule. We have a public hearing set at 9. Janet, do you have any of your other board members coming for your presentation?
I believe that JD's the only gentleman.
Oh,
okay.
Would you, Would you guys be amenable to, going early then? Taking care of that now? Okay, great. And I mean, does 20 minutes give you enough time? Because we have to start the public hearing at 9. It does? Okay, awesome. Well, then come on up and if that's okay with everybody.
Yes, fine with me.
Okay.
Good morning, gentlemen. I really appreciate your time. As you know. Yeah, that's yours. As I believe you're aware, twice a year, I try to get over here and give you a biannual report on what's happening with the Veterans Affairs Office, let you know some of our statistics, and that's what I'll be doing today. I would also be addressing the situation where we want to expand our office space, and I'll cover that as well if you'll allow me to do so.
Absolutely.
Okay. If you'll look at the forms that I've handed out to you, the running awards, beneficiaries of Iowa by county is of interest. I've highlighted Page County. I'd like for you to look at that one. What that is saying to you is that in the month of September for 2021, VA has brought in $419,816 this month. That is a little lower than my normal average. But if you will go through the entire report, you'll see that comparable for the size of this county, I'm still well above the norm for the state of Iowa. So that's very important to me and to our veterans. I am increasing. We're having approximately 10 new veterans a month move into this area, which we can't keep houses. They're on the market for a couple of days and gone. We're literally selling houses sight unseen as veterans come in to retire here. So we've got something going on. I think Page is a wonderful county in its own right, but it makes me proud to know the veterans think so too. So we're bringing them in. Number 2, the Page County, that is your GDX expenditure report. It comes out by the thousands. This is always late. So the latest rendition just came out for 2020. And if you'll notice on that report that there's $12,435,000 were brought into this county in 2020. And we've consistently increased, if you'll look at that form, it's got the big yellow mark on the top. Every year we've consistently increased, and that's our goal to keep that moving. So I think that's a pretty good intake for the county.
Excuse me, Jane, GDX, what does that stand for? Do you know?
It's the government expenditure index.
Okay.
And they break it down by state, and then they break it down by county.
Okay.
And it's what's expended by the federal government for retirement money, benefits that we get for the veterans, BIC to the widows, and it also includes aid and attendance to any veteran that goes into a nursing home. So it's a gambit of a lot of different things.
Sure. Okay.
It doesn't balance exact as some of the other reports because of that, because that's every expenditure to federal funding. Okay. And your next sheet is a cost breakdown. I'm changing venue here just a little bit. We're going to be going into my request for a little bit more office space. Again, I want you to know that I greatly appreciated the offer that we could maybe be moving over here to Florinda. I was excited about that. But as an overall group, my commissioners have decided they would prefer we stay in Shenandoah. Now, that being said, I don't have the little office that we have. Denise and I are both accredited, so we can both do claims. So she's not just my secretary. And that being said, we don't have the privacy that we need to deal with our veterans. I don't have the room in that room, if you will, and I don't have the ability to close off. So often I'll have to take a client and go down to the conference room, shut the door, and interview them there. We're seeing an increase across the board with depression, PTSD, those kind of situations, particularly some of my young men that are moving into this area, Afghanistan and so forth. I have to be able to give them quality private time. So I'm asking if you would consider for me, if you'll look at the next sheet where you have the Page County West building breakdown, I would like to move our office from this right-hand bottom corner, where I've got 15 by 21 feet, up to the other room where DHS has that now, and they have 35 by 15 feet. In doing that, if I was allowed to, I would put in a division wall where I have a window between my desk and Denise's desk, and a door at the end where I literally could close off the office if I need to, for privacy. And she can pin people that are coming and going, or if she needed to, she could also close off her office. There is an exit door, and I didn't mark it, that's clear on the right, goes out to the garage, so we have everything covered for safety and fire. I've checked all that, and the fire marshal come down and look good. I do not need a fire door, but I could have the separation door there. And I would like to work with Mr. Alan Armstrong on cost effectiveness on this, and I did get a report this morning that'll be sent to you, sir. It'll cost us right at $9,000, and that's a high estimate. And it's on my phone, I'll print it off to you, Alan, from Integrity, and they can come in and put that wall in. Now, I know that sounds like a big amount, but this is a one-time thing, and as you know, we do all our own cleaning, so we do save you some money there every month. One-time shot, it would be a lot cheaper than moving us to Florida. Okay, and the difference in the cost for each room is on this sheet. So you'll see there that I broke that down, and the difference annually would only be $1,074 is what you'd lose for the lease agreement that you have with the DHS. So I know you can't do that today, and that can be tabled, but I'd really like to present that and ask for permission to pursue that. And again, I'm asking if that goes through Alan Armstrong. He takes care of venues over there for us.
What are the lease agreement with DHS right now? I don't have.
Yeah, I don't know. We need to have Melissa pull that. How much do you know about the current lease agreement with DHS? Because
I don't know about the lease agreement, but I can tell you that they're only there maybe 2.5 hours a month.
yeah, I know they don't
That room is not
utilize the
used.
space.
Yeah.
But we
how
need to
much-
pull that. We need to
yeah.
pull that
Right.
agreement out.
And I know
see.
this is preliminary to the request, but I'd really like to have this addressed
Okay.
and get your opinions. But
Sure.
I gave you all the information that I could provide today.
Yeah. Well, no, I
Why
appreciate that.
don't, why don't I ask at this time for us to request having it sent, the lease agreement sent to the three of us?
Okay.
And then I'll go out and also maybe the names of the contact person with the DHS. I know some of the people that I've given the keys to, but I don't know who all, so maybe visit with them. You're thinking basically of splitting their room in half?
Yes, and giving us the privacy. We have a window between us, so we
Right.
can still communicate to our
So,
business.
and then what would your office, the old office be?
Would be
Their
DHS.
office.
Would be for DHS,
We'll
okay,
flip-flop.
that's, yeah.
And
yeah.
again, they only use it
Right,
2.5, maybe
right.
2.5 or
Right,
less
right.
hours.
When they do occupy it, typically, is there just one or two? Do you?
One lady comes in, I believe that she checks and updates and then looks at local cases,
Mhm.
and she's there for a short time and then she leaves. We're a satellite to them,
Okay.
okay?
Okay. Yeah, let's get that agreement, because
yeah.
I don't know. We need to, actually, when you make that request, let's get the lease agreement with Zion, because I think that thing's been in place before any of us came on board.
Yeah,
I would like to see what the terms are.
Both are, yeah.
Can that be
Yeah,
requested?
just send them to us so we can look over and then we can decide when we want to put it on the agenda. So,
Well, Janet, thanks to you and your commissioners for putting this together. We appreciate deeply how veterans are being served in Page County.
Thank you, sir.
yeah.
And before I step out, I'd like for you also, I would like to publicly thank the Elks Club for the grants that they're giving us and supporting us. And I want them to know that we are actively using that funding to reach out to veterans. So on the November 11, VA will have an open house. We're going to have it from 11 to 1, and this will be supported and financed by
The Elks
the
Lodge,
Elks Club.
yeah.
And again, publicly, I'd like to thank them
Mhm.
for their involvement and continued support.
Mhm.
So we'll have that out on the website.
Well, and from the elk side of things, I'd like to thank Denise especially for her involvement in this. She's been
She
very,
runs
she
that.
really does a great job of
Yes, she
finding ways
does.
to spend the money, so. it's
She's
very
an
nice.
asset,
Yes, she is.
absolutely. And so.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah,
got a
thanks for letting her work
strong
for you.
office and we both love what we do, so.
Yep. No,
Thank you.
I will, yeah, if you want to send any information you have to me at any time, that's fine. And we'll get these lease agreements and make sure that we can do what we want to do, and then
Thank you,
we'll
sir.
discuss it more. So,
And you'll
and I'll
have that
say it,
estimate today. It's
Yeah,
on my phone. We'll
yeah.
send it right over.
just email it to me, yeah, that'd be fine. Yep,
Thank you for your time.
Excellent, yeah, thank you.
Yep,
For
thanks.
you coming in.
yep. Okay. And JD, welcome to the VA board. I know that you and Ron and Wendy are getting along well. So,
I had nothing whatsoever to do with the stuff here.
Mhm.
Getting involved with the
Mhm.
pleasant.
Mhm.
Very.
Sure.
Janet knows this, but you guys may not know this. Janet doesn't just serve as a veterans page.
Mhm.
If somebody in the county
Mhm.
has a problem, they can come to her and she helps them also. When I was working for the Census Bureau, I met people with veterans,
Mhm.
and it weren't being served. I would give Janet their phone number, she would call them, direct them to where they can get help. So it's not just Page County, but she brought up about the veterans coming to the state of Iowa, and the veterans that are here, bring a tremendous amount of federal funds to the county.
Yep.
Not to the county budgets, but the people that come here that are veterans, their money comes here, they spend it at Walmart, and they spend it at the grocery stores. So, and I spent a lot of years at these counties providing things for that way. And it was like the VA was every minute. And I'm not saying that as a negative thing, but I didn't know anything about the VA. And it was like, every once in a while, somebody from the VA would show up and county, but other than that, I seldom ever heard anything about the VA. Now that I'm involved, we need to be more and more involved. I'm gonna say something a little negative here. The building as it stands, our doors open to a couple of different positions, and people come and go as they please. And the other officers use the restroom, and use the restroom. But when they were there repairing the office building, people were coming and going through the lunchroom there, and just what they wanted as far as snacks, drinks, out of the refrigerator. Those aren't public. They belong to the VA, and there's signs on the refrigerator that says VA.
Yeah, well,
Come and go to the design and stuff through there, they just have themselves some VA snacks. So.
Janet may have to put you on police guard.
Sergeant at Arms.
Yeah, Sergeant at Arms. Yeah. Janet, one question for you.
Yes, sir.
You made a comment about the board isn't wanting to move at this time. What about as far as space for a meeting area over here at conference? Are you still interested, once our upstairs is done, having that available if you need to meet with somebody over here?
Thank you for addressing
Yeah,
that, sir. Right now, I'm using the American Legion,
Right,
and they have been supportive.
Okay,
They're
okay.
paying for the
Okay,
utilities
okay,
that somebody
okay.
opens for me and so
Okay.
forth.
okay,
I would love to have our own little office where I could have
Okay.
that man maybe
Okay.
one day a week. We
right,
have two of
okay,
us,
okay.
if
Well,
we have space.
We'll keep that in mind as we're moving things around. There's a lot of discussion
Just
on
drive
what
back
we're,
and forth right
yeah,
now,
sure,
Or they come to me.
sure.
Um,
Okay.
That estimate has just been sent to all three of you.
Oh, great, good, thank you.
Super.
Thank you again.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I got one more comment. I went to the.
JD, come to the microphone, please.
I went to the commissioners training thing in Des Moines a few weeks ago. And it's amazing what we as commissioners are supposed to be doing for the VA, for the VA administration. We're supposed to be out there fighting for them. I don't want to fight. I'd rather have it coming because they deserve it. And a little thing, simple thing, there's a little sign that was made by Ron that points to the VA admin office. Nobody knows where it is. Veterans don't even know the street that it's on, much less the location. And I've tried to get some information to the highway department to build signs for us. They can't, they won't. I will build some signs. I've got a CNC router and I'll make signs myself. But if I give you guys a bill for the plywood, is that okay? Or do I have to do it on my own?
You'll need to run it through the board. You guys can discuss that, and then I would assume that you've got dollars. You guys talk about that, and then if Janet needs to ask us, she will. Okay?
But just,
So you guys, that's your board's decision.
okay.
So
So just,
yeah,
I implore you guys, support these people.
Yeah.
The veterans.
I would also, before you go too far doing it yourself, I think I would also talk to JD and see where he gets his signs made at. Maybe stop down at the engineering office, talk to Lisa, talk to Todd Fouch over in Florinda or in Shenandoah, see if he's got any ideas. There may be some people out there, because signs are getting made, JD. So just the big thing is you've got to have clearance from both county and state where that locations are, unless you put it on private property.
Well, veterans
Yeah.
have given me permission to put sign on their property.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's, on the other end of the street, there's a space that's owned by Shenandoah, I think.
Right,
They
so you
maintain-
got to make sure, but that's something you three board members need to address. Okay,
Thank you.
you bet.
Thanks.
You guys want hard copies of that proposal?
Okay. I think I've got the original, and I think I've got the hard copy here.
You do?
I
Okay.
think I do,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I'll make a motion that Jacob reads it when it's time. We'll tag team.
We don't have to read it.
Oh, we don't? No, because it was already, okay, good.
As long as we have copies of it. If
Okay.
somebody wishes to read it, or wishes. We can, but no, I checked
Okay,
with.
shoot.
So we don't.
Remember
have
that
to-
one we read that was
Yeah.
like about 3 hours long? Oh my goodness.
But do you need a hard copy of this integrity quote for
Sure.
Janet's packet?
That's who did most of the work on the building, his integrity, Jacob. And they did the wall, did a very nice job, matched up the paint well.
Well, it is now 9 o'clock, so if we could have a motion to open our public hearing on the proposed ordinance.
I'll make a motion that we open our public hearing for the proposed ATV UTV ordinance.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Armstrong, second by Holmes. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, our public hearing is now open. We have a number of people online. We have several people in our audience. Would ask if you have a comment about our proposed ATV, UTV ordinance, that you would come to the microphone, identify yourself. A summary of your comments will be put part of our public record. And we would ask you to please limit those comments to 5 minutes or less if at all possible. I did check with our legal counsel at Allers and Cooney regarding whether or not the ordinance needs to be physically read during the public hearing, and the answer was no. We have copies of the proposed ordinance on the table. If you wish to have a copy, if you've not read it, it's there. But at this time, are there any public comments for this proposed ordinance?
I had someone call me last night, didn't be here at this time. Their comment on it was, the fee of $30 I thought could be lower. I looked at Ringgold County and they're $10, and I thought that was more acceptable. They're paying road use tax, all these things anyway, fuel, so that was a comment I received last night.
Okay. Since we talked about it a few weeks ago, I've had no additional comments.
I had just the one. But it was about an accident that had happened just recently, that those accidents are gonna happen, whether there's that's available or not, unfortunately.
Anyone online with any public comment offering? Wait just a moment or two. Well, hearing no public comment, I would ask for a motion to close our public hearing at 9:03.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing at 9:03 for the ATV, UTV ordinance.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Armstrong, second by Holmes, all in favor in closing the public hearing at 9:03, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, public hearing is closed. Now need to look at the ordinance as presented. Do we have a motion to approve it as presented, or?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Armstrong, second by Holmes. Any other discussion? You know, Jacob, there are, I agree, since there's no state regulation on these county ordinances, there are a number of different price offerings. I'd not seen $10, the lowest I'd seen was $17.50.
Well, Ringgold's 10, but I see, we're 15 upon renewal.
Yeah.
So it's not 30 to 10, it's 15 to 10. So I think $15 is not exuberant.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, call for a roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Motion carries 3-0. As stated in the ordinance, of course, this is the first reading. We will have the second and third reading combined on November 9th. So that will be our next date. All right. We're a little bit early. I don't know if we should start. We could probably, let's go ahead and get our board communication and look at the minutes. And then we can kind of get closer to 9:30.
I have today, this afternoon, Wabansi Mental Health. 1:30. Thursday is Flipco. It's monthly meeting. So to discuss some items, and they're going to be by Zoom, while Bonzi is in person. So
Okay. So,
I had I had West Central last week, after we met. Janine Liljedahl came aboard as our public representative for West Central, from Page County. Had a very good meeting, a lot of detail regarding all of the federal dollars and some of the new programs they're offering, all the way from energy assistance to food assistance, all the way into the daycare, the changes in the Head Start programs and so forth. A lot of issues, a lot of illness-related issues because of people being sick and trying to get through all that. But everything is running smoothly in West Central.
Okay.
So,
Yesterday, Lyle and I and Carl, we met with the Samuels group. And they presented their binders, and I drove a different vehicle. So I did not bring your color binder, but I will bring it. But anyway, they want, I think is he still on there? Yeah, you know, they want to set up a formal meeting to come in and go over that, and then go over the next step.
okay. Did they indicate how quickly? Are we talking early November, late, mid-November?
I would say,
Okay. I'll reach out to Greg.
he's on
He's on the line.
right now.
Greg, any sense on when you would be prepared to have that meeting with us? Have to get Greg done mute. He might be on a phone call too.
But that's going to the next step. Of putting together maybe a plan for how big of jail we need. This is just to show what we've got.
Okay.
Basically, right? This, what we saw was what we have. The next step is to show us what they think we need. Is that right? A projection.
Okay.
Well,
A projection of what we would need.
that's
Okay.
size and scope.
The next numerous years.
Yeah.
But how many years they think it's going like that is good for them. Chances are, no matter what is built, it's not going to meet the needs. Like the old jail did, 1936 to now.
mhm.
Yeah, they used bars and it's lasted almost 100 years. I like them guys. They did a good job.
So, yeah, if we can get some of those 100-year bars.
Now, is the things that you guys talked about yesterday, was that from the draft that they'd sent us
It's
already?
the same thing.
Okay.
They just
So
had a
the-
real nice color version of it.
Okay, so the draft
And a
then,
nice binder.
Yeah, bring in binder.
Yeah.
I don't see that.
Yeah.
Now, will this, with the meeting yesterday and the meeting coming up, and maybe Greg will unmute here.
He is,
Does-
I think.
Oh, okay, Greg, do you have any sense, Greg, when we could have that meeting? Well, I'll just talk to him later, but will that conclude the first segment of their work, or is there more than just that meeting? Does anybody know? Because we hired them to do a jail study, which is the first step. So I'm assuming that when we get that summary report, that part of our contract is.
Well, I asked that kind of yesterday, and what was approved was $15,000, and I don't think we've spent that
No,
much.
We spent about half of that.
yeah.
So he acted like that would be, I took it as this was part of, we're working inside that budget, and I think it fits. That's what I took.
We'll get,
My understanding is that so far, this is where we're at, with what we're needing, where are we looking for most bonds, because it's gonna have to be bond, are 20 years. So what, in the next 20 years or more, they're gonna try to figure out what Page County can do there. So when they get that done, I'm gonna ask them to pick me a couple of winning lottery tickets so that I can retire and just pay for the whole thing without having bonds.
Yes, good idea.
The issue I see coming on this is with everything changing so much. Everything else that we have so long. I don't know where, how they're gonna pull that crystal ball out, but that's what they do for a living, so hopefully they can kind of give us some guidance.
sure. Well, make it flexible enough where it can be adapted and,
I know with Fremont County, like when they built theirs, they had, you can add on to it.
Mhm.
And of course, they put a 20-bed facility in there, way with it. We've got max capacity. So it's something to think about with today's regulations, where you have to classify it. It just keeps changing on a daily, not daily, on a biannual basis. They're the ones that are up to date on that. They're definitely up to date on what the jail inspector and state jail regulations require.
sure.
So,
Well, I'd like to take just a quick moment to thank you and Tony and your entire staff that's been involved. Jacob, thank you for your time.
I was going to leave that makes sense. I'm sure duties to do in the northeast part of the county. I was trying to get down, get back. I was going to leave yesterday, but I'm sure that, my staff there, Jacob, and Samuel's group, they do a great job. Carl was there yesterday, so I kind of got us on board with that. We'll be fine.
Okay, I'll keep you posted. We'll reach out to Greg or Jacob if you want to and just ask him. One of us will reach out to him, find out, but that'll be our next step and probably be sometime in November. I would guess.
Yeah.
Of course, November's short a little bit because of November 2nd and Election Day. We can talk about that a little bit later as to whether we're gonna meet or skip the meeting. I think
We're not meeting.
we are not.
I don't think we can.
Okay.
Not that
The
bad.
auditor's going to pull other people into that.
Yeah.
And I don't like it.
Super. All right, thank you. Wow. So, last Wednesday, we had the Clarendon Economic Development
How was that?
dinner. It was good. Pork chop was outstanding. Speaker was excellent. They are trying to figure out how to get widespread fiber into Clarendon. And on that topic, they may come to the ARP committee.
They already sent us a note.
Did they say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For some
They're
sort of
wanting $17,000 roughly for
study.
study, yeah. And I did visit with her a little bit about the city, what the city, since this was a city-only plan. But I told her that we would keep it in perspective and add it to our list of things.
Right.
So,
Corey, have we checked with Farmers Telephone to see what it would cost to bring fiber across the street? No. Would you mind doing that, or would you like me to reach out to Kevin Cabbage? Pardon me? Okay. I think while we get that to the ARP committee, is that they've got it over here, they've got it there, they've got it there. And
probably both here and the annex. If there's anything close.
see what the build out would be,
Yeah.
what the cost would be.
What the new lines put in, have we seen the bump from that yet, or when does that take place?
And those lines, were the infrastructure, the internal wiring need to be improved, so it's not if we were to bring fiber over, that wasn't an effort for naught, that would have been needed to be done, I'm guessing, so. But anyway, it'd be nice to get, because I think over at the city hall, they're symmetrically at 100 meg up and down. And that would be nice to have that speed.
Yeah, okay. What are we right now with the new lines? What's our up? 300
Is,
down? I don't.
Up and
Kind of
down.
Chinese.
were we symmetrical on that meeting? We probably are.
Yeah.
I'm guessing if you get,
Down is probably good, but up is probably
Yeah.
where we struggle. Yeah. Yeah, that's with the Swift in Shenandoah, I run anywhere from 90 both ways up to 150 depending on the day, both wireless and direct
really,
on our systems. So both ways, 150 is normal.
But
And I pay for 100.
the new lines made our up go from what to what? Did it improve it? 30 to 300 if it's working right, so that's 10 times.
faster on the upload.
But if, you know, other than bearing the cost of the installation of the fiber,
Yeah,
your, you know, your monthly cost is probably comparable to.
that'd be a good item for us to have to look at for the advisory committee to study. So no rush, but maybe today, later.
And let's see, speaking of the annex, the.
Oh, yes, I'm just gonna update.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think back to the steps. I talked to Kimberly Bogatz with HCM last week, a little bit more about the elevator, however you call it, study and finding out about the asbestos removal. And Jacob, just so you know, the original bid back 2 years ago was $32,000. That's all it was going to cost for the whole building. And since we've made some changes and aren't doing what we originally were going to do, we were able to eliminate a lot of that. We're still waiting on an updated bid to take care of that area because of the floor and the floor above it and the area around it that'll have to be abated. But since we're not removing everything, that takes that down. As soon as she has that, she was working on a proposal for the elevator, what it would cost to install, the actual cost. So we should know something, I'm gonna guess maybe this week. I'll have results, but I've talked to 3 different companies on the abatement, and they're all 3 working with Kimberly directly, since she's got the plans, and they can all discuss if there's anything that's an oddity to them that they would be concerned about. So they're working together to come up with an idea to present to us. So go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, at 1 o'clock today, gonna meet with public health, EMA, and the auditor.
Okay.
To look at the space and the request from the ACT team. The ACT team has confirmed that they would like space on the second floor. I can't, off the top of my head, the acronym for ACT. It's basically a hospital without walls for people, serving people with serious mental illness. They're trying, they have one in Council Bluffs, part of the region. They're putting one in Harlan, and they'd like to locate one here in Page County. And, you know, the plan for DHS is to incorporate Iowa Department of Public Health under their umbrella. DHS already is in the process of incorporating the mental health system. So there could be a lot of collaboration between those two. I spoke with Steve Kinkle from Shelby County, who's working on the lease agreement. And the idea is to try to come up with a lease agreement for both that we could both use. And we're looking at the square footage cost. I've talked with several realtors, including George Crawford, who probably has more knowledge on square footage cost in Page County than anybody. And so there was a little bit of miscommunication. We were talking monthly, and Shelby County was talking annually. So it looked like there was a big disparity on what the square footage cost was being charged. But I think we're in the ballpark.
What about Department of Human Services, if they're going to join in with?
They're going to be the organization,
Right.
the oversight.
What I'm saying, what I was wondering is maybe this would be even an opportune time to look at, is there a space over there to where they would have office space available?
Well, when we talked to them about the lease agreement,
Yes, that would be a good conversation, yeah.
However, it's my understanding that they needed
In
an office
Shannon.
in Shannon.
Okay, that's what I was.
And maybe that's changed now with all their.
Sure. Okay,
So, but,
okay.
anyway, my thought, and again, I'm just trying to gather information to bring to this board, but my thought would be that we can come up with a fair rental price, a fair rental agreement, try to get a 2-year lease, so we've got some guarantees. They have a request for some medical cabinets and a sink, and I think we should bill them for the cost of that, because we wouldn't need those items.
Right.
And then come up with a fair rental thing. If we can use a common template with Shelby County, that would,
Yes.
ease Carl's,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have to create it, so.
Right.
Anyway, I'll let you know after today, how that shakes out, and we'll have more on that November 9th. That was all I think I had for board communication. So I will park where the parking is now, currently, and then walk through the building, use the stairs to go upstairs, or use the elevator.
Or the
if they're
elevator.
handicapped. Lift, yeah. Is that lift for handicap, basically? It's not for.
It's for anybody.
It's for anybody.
Yep, yep.
Boxes for
Yep.
storage.
I would say if you're carrying a load of stuff, you might want to use the elevator, like,
Right.
you know, or if you're old like me, you might want to use the elevator. So-
But I think long-term, and the Act Committee needs to look at this too. I mean, if you get another set of people
Mhm.
over there, you know, parking is, certainly
Yes.
the handicap parking is adequate, and we've built that from day one. And some other parking accommodations probably need to be looked at, but that's beyond the scope of the HGM study at this point. They were looking at the interior of the building. So, anyway, and then they had a clinic yesterday. I don't know what they ended up
I
with
didn't hear anything for the boosters and the.
They're expecting maybe up to 500 people yesterday.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right, minutes. Did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes from?
I did, yes.
Did you need a
I'll-
copy? You got it? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as read.
I'll second that. Okay, we have a motion by Armstrong, second by Holmes to approve the minutes from October 19th as presented. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. All right. Well, I think we should wait till 9:30 to begin our work session. So we'll take a 5-minute recess, and I'll see if I can talk Corey on the phone. Thank you. How you doing, John? Great.
Careful, you don't take the microphone back, Alan did that. Did you hear about that? During our budget hearing last year, Alan forgot to take his microphone off. In the back. So we were sitting here like, what is on? Whoops. Yeah, whoops, it can happen to anybody. We laugh about it. I don't know you guys. What's your guys' name? Adam Jaworski. Sarah. Oh, Mary.
so forth.
Thank you, sir. Oh, okay. JD, you said Carl was coming in?
That's what he told me via email.
Okay.
I think it's all.
Did that carousel go into your file 13 from yesterday? An email I sent about the webinar that. Oh, no. Did you? Yeah. They're pretty persistent.
Yeah.
Here's another copy of site here from JD. Oh, you gave him some?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
you already
yeah,
got it?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I'm
okay.
sorry.
Sorry, Carl.
Sorry.
I told you.
That's fine.
I'll wait and I'll give it to you. Carl has 30 minutes and he has to be back over to court.
Court, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your system.
That's the signage.
Todd Township, City. You might have. Gary is the city manager. You bet.
Not that your plywood signs wouldn't look good, JD, but they might be.
Yeah, a steel sign would be much better.
Hey, how about that? Larry Bird lives. Oh. Well, it is 9:30. I'd like to get the meeting back underway. We have on our agenda today a work session to discuss next or possible next steps for a proposed solar ordinance. A few weeks ago, we looked at the ordinance that was prepared by Fremont County for solar development, and we had a discussion, and that's what led to today. We've looked at a lot of material over the last few weeks, and in the interest of time, of course, no decisions going to be made today, but in the interest of time, would like to try to confine this to a 30-minute discussion, see how far we can get. Carl Sorensen is here, our county attorney, that has looked at, I know, the Fremont County ordinance. And why don't we start there if we could? There were some concerns that JD had expressed, and I know you've gone through that ordinance as it stands. What comments do you have for us about that ordinance as it is? And if I could get you to use this mic, please.
He did most of the heavy lifting on that as far as marking it up. There were a lot of typos, and we kind of assumed it was because it was run through like a OCR scanner of some sort. So that's not a big issue. From a legal perspective, I really didn't see a whole lot there other than it doesn't have a definition section. Typically ordinances have something up front that defines some of these terminologies, and there's a lot of tech-based issues here that I really don't know the difference between. I assume it's a size issue or layout or something between the two. But I think there definitely needs to be some definitional section right at the beginning to provide you an
With
idea
all
of
the abbreviations, like some of the other ones had.
Right.
Yeah, that was a good point I mentioned.
Other than that, I think they're really, it's not so much legal issues as much as it's issues about policy and technology and setbacks, some of those sort of things. I noticed there's, I think it was within this, and I think it's something that JD flagged about, 0 setback between adjoining properties. I don't know that that's a good idea. But again, a lot of those comments that JD's made on there, I would agree with.
Okay. So JD, we'll just kind of go through your notes. The maximum height you think is too low for an ordinance?
Well, just run through this
Sure.
thing, my comments or notes.
Yep.
So in general, this came from Fremont County, and I believe they substituted Page County for Fremont County, like a substitute part of a Word document thing. So it talks about the Page County engineer repeatedly. I don't think that's appropriate. It's not to do with roads or bridges. Now, Page County zoning, that's a different matter. I think it's appropriate for that language to be substituted wherever Page County engineer is referred to in this thing.
Okay.
So that's a global comment to the ordinance. Echo the definition thing. There's personal solar energy stuff. There's solar garden, and then there's solar farm. So I need somebody to tell me the difference between a solar garden and a solar farm.
What's the difference? Somebody have a little one for their house or some gigantic.
No, but that's a personal one.
I know,
House.
it should be, no, it should be defined.
So the maybe it's like a rain garden out back, I don't know. I made a comment about the height, 15-foot height limitation looks very short to me in the zoning book and all the ag residential districts. The zoning manual has 2.5 stories or 35 feet as a limit before you have to seek a waiver from the Board of Adjustment for height.
I wonder on that, I was thinking about that. If you had something 15 foot tall, if you want to build a green or something taller. But a solar, gigantic solar farm, if it took up 40 acres across the road from you right next to you, If it's 25, 30 foot tall the whole way, and they're on tilt, you couldn't even see on your second story window out. You would block all visibility to 35 feet. Maybe that's why it's lower. I don't know. It's like a wall of solar, what would be. They're on.
Well, on that topic, I
It
thought,
seems like most places are about that
same height.
I mean, about all the ones I was reading in that ballpark.
What is it, 15 foot or the
Yeah,
30
it
foot?
doesn't seem very tall, but maybe there's a reason for that. I don't know.
Well, it was interesting in the Iowa Solar Siting Guide from the Rural Affairs Council, they recommend not putting a height requirement in the ordinance to allow your zoning, your existing zoning height requirements to act as but to your point, yeah, if you have 40 acres and it's up to 30 feet, you've got quite a.
Black wall.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But there's trees everywhere that tall too.
yeah, but not a wall. So you can't see through a tree here.
We can't see through trees either,
Well,
at least some
You
of
have
the trees
leaves on the ground.
I will.
from the ground up, 30 foot tall, I mean, you're talking maybe cedars, maybe, but anyway, I think you're.
But I found that interesting that, you know, the Center for Rural Affairs, the Iowa Environmental Council put this together. And I found that interesting because all the other samples that I sent to you guys, all but one have a height, designated height.
I do like this. They talk about an example is adding 2 feet to the setback distance for each additional foot of height. So having it tied into, if you're a mile away from somebody versus 200 feet away from somebody, that might make a difference on how that's one of the recommendations they've made in this. I thought there was, it just said it's important the counties do not set overly restrictive height limitations because of the potential agricultural co-uses of solar project areas, such as livestock grazing and planting underneath panels. There's also no compelling safety reason for a height restriction. That's just comments they added in this guide.
So it's 30 or 35 feet in
It's 35 feet in the zoning zone.
in the zone.
Says 2.5 stories. Somewhat, I mean, in the thing, it says 2.5 stories or 35 foot. So I think 15 foot too little, maybe 35 foot too tall. So the next page 2, talk about, you know, the definition of a garden versus a farm. And Page County does not have a conditional use exception. We have a special exception use. But we don't, that's on page 2.
Okay.
We don't have a conditional use exception.
Okay.
Just take a word change in 3B.
Okay.
It also talks about the 0 setback at the property line where there's a couple parcels. Now, you know, if the parcels are owned by the same person, the same landowner, maybe that's a different matter, but they're still passed down through these arrays to get to it. And you could certainly just have one of those paths, these maintenance paths on your property.
Properties where we're sold someday, and that's.
Correct.
Right on the line, that's kind of the deal.
And it talks about, well, here it talks about the Page County engineer making granted exception variance to the setback requirements. That's should be in the purview of the Board of Adjustment on the zoning side. So that's 3C 2A.
2A, okay.
On page 2.
Got it.
It talks about a noise level, not to exceed 50 decibels at the adjacent residence. I don't.
So, they make noise.
no hum of out. So, maybe the wind whistling through the panel.
I don't know if something would happen someday where they were moving a lot or turning or doing things, if it got to be a noise level, there may be something in there for that protection. The actual panel might not make noise, but maybe somehow the operation of it could possibly be a nuisance.
Again, using the Center of Rural Affairs as a guide, we do not recommend adding standards for noise, minimum setback.
I called them and I looked at their website and they have some useful information, but they are green energy, big time push proponent people. And they're, like in their cover pages, stopping global warming is one of their main tasks at hand. So some of their information I have to take with a grain of salt, like I'm talking to a global warming person who believes that is for their salvation. So some of what they say seems their property line setbacks and their house setbacks are also very little. I read that section where they said, or what it is.
200 feet.
No more than, like that was exuberant. And that's not, I just, a lot of sheds are 100 foot long. It doesn't seem very far. So again, but if you're coming from the stance of thinking the world's gonna end if we don't have green energy to stop global warming, you might look at things differently. What's your recommendation?
Comment on page 5 about the decommissioning bond. Some of this is pretty, the challenge to follow about that. Reevaluating the valuation of the array is probably a prudent thing to do. But when they, on page 6, it talks about cessation of operations after 180 days has been not working and they want to remove it. That sounds like a pretty short time. And they could be in.
It leaves the room in there if there's a weather catastrophe or something, doesn't it? Doesn't say that in there unless there's a.
Well, no, this is excluding catastrophic.
Right. It's excluding that.
So this is just the solar farm shut down. We want to take it away right away.
And they have to provide.
Disassemble it right away after 180 days. That sounds real short. Too short of a duration. That was the gist of my comment.
Okay.
What about back on page 4? The certificate, or no, I'm sorry, it was about the administration and enforcement.
Well, I think you would go through the entire document and get the
Right.
engineer language out.
Right.
Well, any necessary personnel, I said designated.
Right. Okay. Okay. I just curious.
Actually, the more you look at the Fremont County one, the more I kind of like this one from Louisa County. Did you?
I don't know how that's.
That was the first one in the group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, JD. I mean, it starts with a definition and it's pretty straightforward. But I'm not saying we couldn't
I think
take some of the elements of that.
my big concern is decommissioning, because these things, as I said in the past, I talked to the supervisors that when this subsidy runs out and then the things need to be recycled or whatever, nobody wants them, the landfill doesn't want them. They said taking TVs costs a fortune. I'm on that board. I think it needs to be, and not just to trust some bunch of investors that they're gonna take care of it. I want this to be, there's no way this comes back on the taxpayer. No way. It went, because 800 acres of solar panels and all of a sudden, it's so expensive, they've abandoned their property. If it's never gonna happen, then it would come to the taxpayer. So we need not a wimpy little decommissioning, we need something pretty stout to make sure that doesn't come back to the taxpayer, where it seems good today and it's terrible tomorrow.
And that's the one on the Louisa one that's very, very in-depth about the decommissioning plan.
And some of those things with having a short amount of time, I was reading and talking to them, where you start something is, you have to have deadlines, or you kick the can, kick the can, kick the can. And they have special allotments or special, you know, show us a plan. You're making a plan and you have, then you can do this, but you have to have a way to cut this off or it could stretch out forever. And I also want to see the money be somewhere, and I was reading some ordinances. I think one of them I read, the money that was come up with is put in Page County in our, like, with our treasurer or something. Like it's real money and it's here, so if they get flaky and run away, if we have a change in how all this money comes into the subsidies, these things could fall pretty fast. And I do not want the taxpayer paying for this if it all falls apart.
I would agree that decommissioning plan, Louisa,
It's
probably
pretty
the
in-depth.
best one
Yeah,
I've seen.
right.
I need to look at it. I don't
It
know
says
what
the
it's
plan shall state that Louisa County shall have access to the project and to the funds to effect or complete decommissioning. So,
Does it address the,
where it's
change in ownership? Because that would be my
No.
only question I didn't really see.
trying to find that.
Because like in our WEX ordinance, the decommissioning, when the contract's written up, it will,
Move on to the next.
well, yeah, it will incorporate any change of ownership.
And how are these taxed? Are these taxed at normal commercial tax rates?
I don't know, that's a Jason question, I don't know.
Yeah,
how they're
on
taxed.
the- yeah, how they're taxed.
You know, this is how they worded in the Louisa one, a written financial plan approved to ensure that funds will be available for decommissioning and land restoration. So they write it, we approve it, we put it wherever we think is best.
We put
have
the
that-
money,
We have, yeah, the decommissioning funds, we have the approval of where they're at.
the actual funds are there.
Right. You know, so,
How they call
pardon?
it, lines of county.
Yeah,
Louisa.
right, right. Yeah.
I look at these.
So,
Also, the 300 feet or whatever's in Fremont County from a residence. What's in, I think, Fremont County.
Mhm.
If it's somebody who doesn't join the investment. Again, that's 300 feet isn't a gigantic gigantic distance, but that should be measured from the property line, in my opinion. If that's what it should be from a house, well, you should have a right to build a house anywhere on your place and have the same buffer. And a house is more natural than 440 acres or 100 acres of solar panels, so it's already here. The building of them is already here, so I'd like to see that change.
I'd like to see it change to 200 feet maximum.
Yeah.
Like 300 feet's too much.
From where?
From the occupied residence, I'm fine with that.
I
So if
do,
you have a place you want to build a house on someday, then they put 0 feet from the property line, and but you basically have to,
You'd be 200 feet away.
You're subject.
Right on property line.
no, you wouldn't be. If you would have to stay 200 feet away. You couldn't, they are setting where you build on your property.
Gotcha.
We're allowing them to tell people who don't sign up where they will build their house. So, and I think this is new, and this is not normal, or not natural.
this is what's interesting though, is the county should include waiver provisions allowing for the county to waive the mandated setback distance with the consent of the participating landowner and adjacent property owner.
And
So
that gives the
therefore,
power to the people.
yes,
So
therefore.
if we say property line and we allow them to waive,
If you said that, then you can still ask for
they could waive
the
it.
waiver.
And that's what I said all along with the wind issue. It's allowed to be waived, so I mean, it really gives the power to the people, and gets it out of us. But an ordinance is supposed to protect both sides, not just one side. So it gives the protection to both sides. And this isn't, like I said, I don't think solar panels are big, dangerous things. It's only a few hundred feet. We're not talking very big things. But they are definitely different. Completely different. From anything natural in Page County at the current moment.
So what does this board envision as next steps?
One more thing, the wires, the locate wires. That's everything. I haven't got very deep in that. Did you get to talk to the guy that had that issue
Which
yet?
Chad, no, I have.
That's just I have three things. I like, and I don't think that's gonna be expensive or should be a big deal for them, to make sure we can locate them very big power lines, so nobody digs into them.
Okay.
That's just the three things I have that I'd like to see in there.
What did Chad call those, like tags or? He had
Yeah.
a term for them.
Well, it's yeah, and I don't know what it was, but it's
What is
an extra wire to locate big giant power lines.
Okay. Power line locator, for lack of a better term. Okay. Okay. So, well, I don't think this is a sprint. I do think that we're all aware that there's at least one, perhaps two developers that are actively securing lease agreements with landowners. I think that I would like us to put this back on the agenda with some of the things that we've talked about today, and maybe redraft a sample, improve on the one from Fremont County, or incorporate some other counties into those areas, and then reconvene and see whether or not we have enough to kind of move forward.
I'm kind of wondering about the Louisa. It sure
Louisa.
looks-
Louisa. Sorry.
Louisa. I like theirs a lot more in depth. It's got a lot more coverage than some of the things are covered.
I like it better
Yeah,
than Fremont
it's already,
County.
yeah,
And it puts to rest some of the, I think it does a lot better at defining
I'm
that
trying to-
residential versus commercial industrial.
Like I said, there's a big difference in somebody putting up one for their personal farm, little solar panel, and something covers 800 acres. Yeah.
So yeah, you haven't had a chance to really read it. I would encourage us to look at this as maybe our better model for improving what Fremont County started.
You email me about that.
Absolutely.
I'll just send that over now.
Oh, you're going to?
And it's got a collection of all of them, but Louisa is at the very top.
Okay.
I'll send that both to you and JD.
I'm not saying Muscatine had some things in it that was good. Johnson's was a little bit. It was too wordy. Webster was okay. I think the other thing that we haven't talked about that is critical would be a functional and good road use agreement to ensure that we have done our homework with regard to that. Does that sound agreeable to put this back on the agenda either on the 9th or the 16th to kind of work through?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I've been reading all these different ordinances. Is there and some of them have these built into them, where I don't know if they have to or not, come before the board with a plan and show us everything before they do it.
Correct.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
Some of them spell that out that they have to, and I don't know what our current.
Yeah, and I don't know in this Fremont County, I think that is addressed in there.
For the people that are
Permitting
gonna have it built
fees.
by them and know what's even happening before it starts being built.
See. Did anybody look at the permit fees? I mean, I don't know what's fair. JD, do you have any comment on the permit fees as they were those reasonable fees?
I don't know
I think it looked pretty, that must be kind of a template.
That must be, they use the same one as Verizon. Verizon, they use the same.
Jacob, to your point, I'm trying to find a language in Fremont County that requires, okay, the application process. Yeah, it talks about the application process in page 4G. So yeah, you get a permit request, you'd have that would be in a public meeting. Comments would be taken.
And the cessation is 180 days in Verizon also.
180 days. Does that seem short?
6 months.
6 months, and they're allowed to submit a plan, and here's why.
Yeah.
It's just if you aren't getting any response,
Yeah.
it kind of makes a deadline. Yeah, I think, to keep things rolling.
I think it would just be if somebody just walked away from it, then you could go ahead and push.
Yeah, because they're gonna make a response if they want to
Yeah.
stay there, I would sure think.
Yeah, the building a permit is on that Verizon one also. Verizon. Shows all the different things that have to be done.
But again, reviewing the Iowa Environmental Council's recommendations, I think could be helpful from a standpoint of what is required of these utilities, you know, like the fencing requirement. They, you know, as a utility, they must require to those, must abide by the NEC requirement, which is reviewed periodically. And so, again, there are some protections already in place for safety. All right, well, we will kind of toy, I'll put some ideas together, kind of copy and paste some ideas into an improved proposed ordinance, and then we can kick it around in a couple weeks. All right, thanks for your time, your comments. Thank you, Carl. I know you've got court.
Now, are we going to, I know we moved our evening meeting to the first, and if we're not here on the first meeting, are we going to move them back to the 9th for this next month for an evening? You want to have it at evening so we can have this on the agenda?
It'll be another work session. I mean, we won't be ready to
No.
propose or vote on anything.
Or do you want to save that for a voting night?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's, you have a preference, David?
Okay.
I don't,
Okay.
I mean, on the work session is the best time to get feedback. When we're ready to vote. We'd have to go back to work session then if we decided to change something. I don't know.
But this work session, we included people on our staff. We didn't really include, nor is it intended to include public comment. So we could probably do a morning work session, and then when we get to an ordinance, then
Yeah,
yeah,
okay,
absolutely, we'll do it in the evening,
okay.
whether
Good
it's first, second, or third. Okay. All right, well, we've gone through everything on our agenda. Do I have a-
On that subject, one more thing. Do we need to involve the cities into, thanks, Carl. Do we need to involve the cities into this discussion at all in case we have a case where somebody in the community of the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 communities want to build one inside their city limit? No.
Well, probably once you reach out to AJ, I'll reach out to Gary and just, you know, see if there's any interest on their part.
And that's one of the things out west they're doing a lot, I guess, is building them in parking lots, putting the solar panels in the huge parking lots to not use up wasted space, so to speak, or less construction required. So.
Well, there are a number of Iowa communities that are doing community
Right.
roads.
Yeah.
So, okay, awesome. Motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you for joining us.